Welcome to VPAT training, Module 8 for ACR readers and evaluators. My name is Laura Renfro and I work for HP in the Office of Aging and Accessibility. In this module, we're going to attempt to stitch together all of the pieces that should come together from Module 1 to Module 8. In this module, we'll explain what the ACR readers and evaluators should look for when reading an ACR. An ACR is an accessibility conformance report, and the readers and evaluators are really the consumers of all the work that the companies have gone to in creating the ACR. All 8 modules will help you as an ACR reader. All of them have different detailed information and they all work together to create one cohesive guide for you. And so just take the time, if you have it, to go through all of these modules. Okay. You get the ACR and you have some steps when you receive it. As you look over it, step 1 would be to determine what standard it is that is needed in the ACR. So this may be actually even before you receive it in the requesting an ACR stage. Make sure you know which standard you need. Do you need Section 508? Are you purchasing for a European customer? You might need an EN 301 549 version, so just look at that. Step 2, was the correct template used? Step 3, which version was included in the ACR? As to the which product version is included in this ACR? And then if it's not the correct one, or not an older one, for example, you may need to ask for a new ACR. What testing was performed when the person was creating the ACR? Look at the whole product and make sure you have all of the ACRs that cover the accessibility of that product. Step 7, know what criteria would be needed. And then 8, how to read the success criteria tables. Okay, step 1. So determine the standard that you need. WCAG, okay, and we're going to talk about WCAG. This is a little bit of a tomato-tomato discussion, but some people say WCAG, some people say WCAG, and some people spell it out WCAG. They all mean the same thing. So if you hear any of those translations or another version of it, just know it's all the same. And WCAG is measured by both version and level. So the version is numeric, so it might say 2.0, 2.1, 2.2 is coming. The level is alphabetic, and it's really A, AA, AAA. So WCAG is cumulative, so you have to meet level A before you can meet AA. And then WCAG 2.1, level AA, is the most commonly used worldwide standard. Step 2, was the correct VPAT template used for your needs? There are 4 versions. They're all available on ITI's VPAT website. So there's a version that contains WCAG, that only contains the WCAG criteria. There's a 508 version, which contains Section 508, that also has the WCAG 2.0 level AA tables in it. There's an EU version, which contains the EN 301 549 version, and there's an international version that contains everything. So on a table, we have who the consumer might be and which version of the report you might want to ask for. So if you're U.S. public sector, you might ask for a 508 version, or you might ask for an international version. if you're in the EU, you might want the EU version or an international version. If you're U.S. private sector, you might request WCAG 508 or the international version. And if you're EU private sector, you might want the WCAG, the EU version, or the international version. Okay, step 3, was the correct VPAT template used? The criteria in the ACR didn't change every time the version did. And so this table is really beneficial so that you can highlight, you can sort of check if you get a version, or you might get 2 versions from a company of ACRs. You can check to see if you got the correct one. Now the first two, 2.0 and 2.1, were initial versions that were basically what we call the international version now. So in 2.2, we pulled it apart into the 4 reports that we just mentioned, and made the support criteria change from supports with exceptions to partially supports. They mean the same thing, but that was a request, and so we honored that request. 2.3, 2.3 revised, and 2.4 did have changes. So in 2.3, the WCAG 2.1 criteria was added, and EN 301-549 was also updated. And then in 2.4, we added some customized instructions and also updated EN 301-549 to the most recent version. And EN 301-549 does change more at a faster rate than the others do, just so you know that. Okay, this step is about the actual product that you're purchasing. Many products that you might be buying are pretty complex. And so you just want to make sure that you understand what the product entails, like the whole package, and then which version of the ACR that you're getting. And also, you might get an ACR for an older version of a product that you want to buy. So that's something to think about. You may want to make sure that you don't accept something for an older version of a product where it may not be applicable at all. And here is a chart about that, or a table about that. When you may need to ask for an updated ACR, okay, so we have some conditions and then some analysis. The ACR might come in and it's for version 3.5, and the release to be installed is 3.5.1. This is a minor release, and chances are you do not need to ask for a different VPAT. Another condition would be you have an ACR that was for 3.5, and the release to be installed is actually for 4.0. This one is a major release. Typically companies, if they switch, a whole number like that, so the original ACR that you receive for 3.5 may not be applicable at all to 4.0, so ask for a newer one. Software as a service is a unique condition, and in this case, versioning is less reliable because software as a service, or SaaS products, they can be updated dozens of times a day. So you may have to check and make sure that the ACR that you're given is valid for the version, again, that will be installed. And native apps are similar. They're updated at a pretty quick cadence, and so you may want to check on that one as well. Step 4 talks about the testing that was performed, and the testing performed will drive the answers that are on the ACR. In the front page or two of the ACR, you'll see a section that's called Evaluation Methods Used. Make sure to really read through this because it's going to give you some good information about the actual accessibility testing that was performed on the product. Also, you could look in the notes section. you want to find out all the information you can about the testing that was done. And your answers should include who did the testing, was it in-house, an outside vendor, and then did the testing include users with disabilities? Step 5 would be to look at the kinds of testing that was performed. There's a lot to accessibility testing. So a tester might use automated testing. They should use, I guess, manual testing would be a second kind of testing to look for. Was it tool assisted? Did they do visual inspection, manual operation? And then what kinds of assistive technologies did they use in testing? And was it done with a person without a disability or a person with a disability? Any ACR that only is based on automated testing should really be critically evaluated, and questions should be raised to the company that you're getting the ACR from. It's not as accurate or valid, and there are some criteria that can't be tested with automated tools. So just know that that's a red flag if you receive an ACR that just says automated testing. Okay, a deeper dive into the kinds of testing performed is step 5. Automated testing, again, it does a good job for what it tests. It just leaves a lot out. And so something could pass an automated test and be completely inaccessible for many users with disabilities. Some estimate that automated testing can only track 25 to 29% of accessibility violations. And again, if this is the only type of testing that's done, the ACR is not going to be accurate. It could support all 25% and still leave out a large majority of the application. Manual testing, you want to look for keyboard testing, no mouse. You want to look at what tools were involved, and again, the person using the tools that checked everything out to make sure that all content is accessible by the keyboard only and that nothing is skipped. The reason for that is the next thing we'll talk about. Assistive technology often rides on the keyboard order, so if you don't have keyboard accessibility, users using assistive technology may not be able to reach it. Assistive technology includes screen readers, screen magnifiers, voice recognition, switch devices, and other things that assist a user in consuming the technology that your company or department is purchasing. Okay, I alluded to this before, but products are complicated. There's just a lot to them. And so step 6, do you have all of the ACRs that needed for this procurement opportunity? All products, a product, all products, a lot of products. Some products could be simple. I shouldn't say all, but a lot of products are a combination of sub-products. They'll have a piece of hardware, they'll have a piece of software, they may have a mobile app, and make sure your ACR either covers all of that, all of the different pieces, or you ask for an ACR that does cover it. If you know that your staff is going to be using a mobile device, for example, make sure you have an ACR to find out if the mobile app is accessible. Some of the components of the purchase may be required from another vendor, a third party. And so you just look it over carefully so that you make sure you have everything that you need from, you know, the initial company that you're dealing with, but also if they're using third-party equipment, third-party software on their device, make sure that you have ACRs for that as well. Your goal is to know how accessible a product is. So our goal is to tell you You need to look at all of the different reports for the different components that you're purchasing. Okay, now, all products have defects. Just like all humans are unique, all different users with disabilities are unique, and we have a lot of category of disability that is included in one ACR. And so know the needs of the people that you're purchasing for, and that'll help you a lot when you're reading through the ACR to make sure that their needs will be met by the software, hardware, by the product that you're purchasing. You need to make sure that the criteria in the ACR that you're looking at, highlight the ones that are most relevant to your needs and to the needs of your department. If you come across an ACR that seems like it's just a completely inaccessible product, then go ahead and disqualify that vendor and let them know. It really does help the industry move forward when VPAT readers give us feedback like that. So make sure to let the person know, we're not buying your product, it's not accessible, and that'll drive change. You can quickly check for guidelines pertaining to a specific disability via a functional needs review, and then WCAG has a map that does map to functional needs, and that's located at if you search for a mapping of WCAG 2.0 to functional performance criteria. Okay, step 8 would be reading through the success criteria tables. You want to look at the conformance level and then the remarks and explanations. The conformance levels will be standardized. You can tell if something supports, partially supports, doesn't support, or if the product doesn't have any of the functionality that for a specific criteria, it'll say not applicable in most cases. Read the remarks and explanations. They'll have good information, and you should be able to tell if a product would still be accessible for your specific needs or not. Always start with the level A criteria in the WCAG tables and then read through AA. Also, just look at the defects, look at those remarks and explanations to get, again, a clearer picture of how accessible the product is. That's the goal of the ACR. Okay, there is a lot to this. It's a complicated process, but your job is so important because you're the one that's going to be helping to ensure that all users in your company, department, state, whatever it is, have the best chance at using the products that you're purchasing. So learning about accessibility is important. Learning about the ACRs is also important. ITI has a VPAT webpage. You can go to that. The core page is at www.itic.org/policy/accessibility/VPAT. You can find new versions there. You can find good information there, and that'll be a good place to start to see the base and the latest version of the ACR. You can look at the w3.org for all things WCAG, and that also contains really good information. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the training, EN 301-549 has a pretty quick cadence of updates, and so you can, search and look and sign up to find out about the next version of EN 301-549. If you have questions, or better yet, if you have feedback, you can contact us at info@itic.org, and our telephone number is 1-202-737-8888. We would like to thank our industry partners for the contributions. We'd like to thank HP, IBM, Intel, Lexmark, Oracle, and VMware for all the effort. And as we're concluding Module 8, I would also like to thank all of the industry people that have given up a lot of time and effort into this whole video series. And again, I hope as you're consuming these videos, you find all of this information valuable. Questions?
So we didn't actually receive any questions during this session.
We've covered it all.
We've covered it all. But one thing I'd really like to flag is just a reminder that ACRs aren't just something that big companies do. You know, anybody that's selling products really needs to be completing the accessibility conformance report. So it doesn't matter if you're a small company, big company, you need to make that information available so that all your customers have access to it. So always, you know, design, develop, and products should be accessible, and you as ACR readers have the right to ask any size company for these reports, because it's going to make your job easier.
You're right.
So yep, that was one item I wanted to make sure that we flagged. So again, if you have feedback, let us know, and you know, I think that's what we've covered in all of this. So thank you so much, and